So was it? Let's talk about where that idea comes from. As soon as the story about Pope Francis's quote came out, a number of Vatican commentators and publications jumped to say, this isn't news, Pope Francis has said it before. That's kind of true. Back in 2010, when Pope Francis was Bishop of Buenos Aires, Argentina legalized gay marriage. Then Cardinal Bergoglio was really concerned about this legal definition of marriage being changed from a man and a woman to any two people, which is a line that he continues to hold. So as an alternative to gay marriage, Cardinal Bergoglio started urging his brother bishops, in private, to support a civil union law. That way, there would be legal protections for gay and lesbian couples without them being called marriages. But this was private support, not a public statement. Once Francis became Pope in 2013, he gave 2 interviews where he was asked about gay marriage. In the first one, in 2014, he says he understands why countries want to give gay couples legal protections, but he doesn't advocate them himself. In the second one, he was simply asked about gay marriage and he said, let's call them civil unions. That's it. None of those statements were as clear of support as Pope Francis gave in this quote in this documentary. He said, what we have to have is a civil union law. That way they are legally covered. And that level of support, expressed that clearly, is new. Here's the last question. Is Pope Francis changing church teaching by saying this? The answer is no, he's not. The thing to know here is that there are different levels of church teaching. What takes precedent here is a 2003 document from the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. This document says, respect for homosexual persons cannot lead in any way to approval of homosexual behavior or to legal recognition of homosexual unions. So that remains the official word on same-sex unions from the church. But let's talk about what Francis has changed. What Francis changes with this statement is the church's tone towards LGBT people, and that's really significant. Francis has been working throughout his pontificate to make sure that the church's tone towards LGBT people is one of welcome and not of exclusion. We've seen a lot of examples of this, like when he said about gay priests, who am I to judge? Or when he told a group of parents of gay children that God loves them. Or when he told the Chilean sexual abuse survivor Juan Carlos Cruz that God made him gay. In the documentary, the Pope's words are paired with the story of an Italian couple, a gay couple, who had adopted 3 children. One of the dads went to the Pope and said he was afraid to take his kids to church because he was afraid they would be excluded for having gay parents. And Pope Francis encouraged them to go to church anyway. Now they've been part of a parish for 3 years. The dad says in the movie that Pope Francis didn't comment on his marriage, and he suspected that Francis was holding the church's traditional line there. But it was Francis's tone of welcome that got his family back to church. And it's that shift in tone that Francis is underscoring again with these comments. He says gay kids have a right to a family, and gay couples who are in stable relationships living together have a right to be protected under the law. And that remains true even with the questions that were raised about the quote. For more Vatican analysis from me and Gerard O'Connell, check out our podcast, Inside the Vatican. You can also find written analysis from us and the entire America Magazine staff at americamagazine.org. And for more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, are you with me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The video was explaining that what came out was a report about a documentary by a certain Evgeny Afhinevsky. Evgeny Afhinevsky was given the sources in the Vatican about interviews that the Holy Father exclusively gave to certain reporters. And the one that was quoted was Mexican Interview 2019. If ever you haven't done it yet, I hope you leave Merck or Clara your address, email address, so that if ever I would want to share something later on, we could do so. Okay. In the documentary that he made, Evgeny Afhinevsky, he quoted an interview from Mexico. Okay, and since he had asked us in the library, he cited something from that Mexican interview and connected it with another interview and patched it up. Now, did the Pope really say those words? He did. But when it came out in Mexico, it did not come out like that because it was silenced. It was removed because of possible misgivings or interpretations. The reporter was saying, was then the Pope during that time, 2019 in Mexico, was he censored? No. The Vatican always does things like that. What now can we say with Afhinevsky? Well, it's a mystery how he was able to make a press release with this. Okay? How he was able to connect those two, take it out of context, and it came out in the Vatican press. Okay, and it seems even that he was supporting, or rather, the Vatican was supporting his documentary, whereas it seemed there was a big mistake on these two interviews connected together, taken out of context, and that the Holy Father was not saying the same things. Okay, I proceed to the next slide. That's a summary of it. Okay, later on, the Vatican would clarify and say what I just said. It would course a letter through the papal nuncios, the ambassadors later on, to tell the bishops that the doctrine has not changed and what the Holy Father was saying is for a particular context, particular states. It's not something that changes the ball game. Okay. In the next slide, I wanted to tell you that I think we have to follow the Holy Father all the time. No, but we have to follow the real Pope Francis. No? What do I mean by the real Pope Francis? I mean, with his positions, with his pastoral approach, and what he has been saying through the years. Okay, not like that, taken out of context, not like that, patched interviews. Okay. These are some statements of the Holy Father through the years. First, and these are good takeaways already for this class. Treat children with same-sex attraction with charity. Okay, it has to be done with prayer, with prudence, without approving clearly of homosexual acts, but always done with charity to the person concerned. We can never cast off or abandon children because of their sexual attraction. He has also followed this up in interviews and statements since December 2014, August 2018, September 2018, March 2019, and September 2020. Okay, that's one. He always protects the person. He always reaches out to those peripheries. And if the people in the SSA rather, same-sex attraction, can be classified under that, he will go out if they are discriminated to protect them, like a good pastor that he is. Next point, what has the Holy Father been saying through the years? Gay unions do not make a family. In 2010, responding to a proposal for gay marriage in Argentina, Cardinal Bergoglio, who will become Pope Francis later on, he wrote, "In the coming weeks, the Argentine people will face a situation whose outcome can seriously harm the family. At stake is the identity and survival of the family, father, mother, and children. At stake is a total rejection of God's law engraved in our hearts." Now, you can tell me, but Father, that is in Argentina. Maybe he changed. Well, in that same year, 2010, there was a book that was published later on. And this was in an interview or a dialogue, very personal, intimate dialogue with Archbishop Scicluna. I hope you can see what I'm typing, which is in Malta, and saying the same thing. Same-sex marriage is an anti-value, an anthropological regression. 2014, what did he say? He said to the participants in a Rome's diocesan conference, a man and a woman choose to build a family because God calls them after having them experience the beauty of love. Okay, he highlights the complementarity of sexes, which I was mentioning earlier. In the same year, so that was June 2014. The same year also, November, he spoke out. He stated, "Only marriages make a family," to a conference held by Humanum, Complementarity of Man and Woman. He said, "Children have a right to grow up in a family with a father and mother capable of creating a suitable environment for the child's growth and emotional development." He noted, and I quote the Holy Father, "The family is an anthropological fact and consequently a social, cultural fact." 2015, February, when Slovakia had an upcoming referendum on gay or civil unions that the church was fighting, Pope Francis encouraged the Slovakian church to continue their efforts in the defense of the family. the vital cell of society. The same year, a week before a similar referendum in Slovenia, he also stated, I wish to encourage all Slovenians, especially those in public capacity, to preserve the family as the basic unit of society. 2016, Roman Rota, and this is the highest body, well, second to the highest after the apostolic signature, protecting the sanctity of marriage in the tribunals, canon law tribunal. There can be no confusion between the family as willed by God and every other type of union. It is in his speech that he delivered or addressed. The same in many other locations of his papal magisterium. For example, in a declaration with Patriarch Kirill of the Russian Orthodox, in Amoris Laetitia, there are absolutely no grounds for considering homosexual unions to be in any way similar or even remotely analogous to God's plan for marriage and family. What did he just say? He repeated the document that we were studying earlier, CDF's 2003 pronouncement. Okay, and when he told us, the Filipinos, what did he tell us when he visited us in that MOA to continue fighting against ideological colonization, to continue to defend the family? So it is pretty clear that Pope Francis is against the gay unions treated as equivalent as family or marriage. Okay? Okay, now this one is the gray area, okay? Because the world has changed and we have to also face that. In 2003, when the CDF published this document, there was only one nation, one state that approved same-sex marriages. And now it is approved in many places. And I think, as following many who analyze Pope Francis, is also saying this. Where gay marriage is legal, find a way so that we could lessen the harm. One could listen to support proposals aimed at limiting the harm done by such a law and lessening its negative consequences at the level of general opinion and public morality. And what is the way that what is this way that the Holy Father recommended when he was Archbishop? And yes, he said this, and he seems to still say it as Pope. Well, don't compare it, what you are enjoying, where you are having, you call it marriage, don't compare it to the real marriage. Call it civil union. Now, many said this clearly is a prudential judgment on the part of the Holy Father. Knowing the signs of the times, so many gay marriages already. So to win the battle, it starts with calling it not a marriage, calling it a civil union. But taken out of context, applying it, for example, to our country where this thing is completely alien, I think is unfair. Applying it as a doctrine of the church is totally unjust. Okay, I proceed with the next slide so that we could have more time for Okay, you recognize the Holy Father here? He is shaking the hand of one of the priests here. I don't know, I don't recognize him right now, but it was held in Rome this year. Okay. The final sentence I give, you would say a takeaway as well in this class is first, yes to doctrine. We continue studying marriage. We continue falling in love with this reality given to us by God. We continue studying documents of the church, conversations about it, giving witness, giving testimony to the real life, the life of grace experienced by so many couples. Okay? Yes to doctrine. Yes to doctrine because it has always been a consistent pronouncement of the Holy Father and many others who have preceded him. We do not joke around with truth. His position in Buenos Aires, his stand with the Filipinos, and what I've earlier presented to you, the series of pronouncements about this is pretty clear. Okay? But the Holy Father also would want to add to that, I think. And that is yes to the creativity of love. Yes to the creativity of love, to finding ways on how we could converse, dialogue with people who side perhaps on the same-sex marriage approval and see what are the compromises without destroying our faith, without going against it, okay? That they can also be respected as persons. They can also be, for example, protected by healthcare. And there is one author, and I'll cite him right now, who said this. There was a time, the one who followed Cardinal Ratzinger is Cardinal William Levada,